This episode is brought to you by my 5-video, absolutely free bread and butter course. Sign up for the course by going to smartpokerstudy.com/bread-and-butter-course. That's one word, bread and butter course. The 5 videos will teach you how to get into bread and butter spots, which are being the pre-flop raiser in position against 1 or 2 players, and they'll teach you how to exploit your opponent's post-flop as well. So get in on this 5-video course, smartpokerstudy.com/bread-and-butter-course. Good day, my name is Sky, and I appreciate you spending some study time with me. I'm here to help you make money in online poker by teaching you key strategies and getting you to take action. In this video, I'm going to teach you about bread and butter poker, which is the most profitable and the funnest spot that you can put yourself in over and over again to improve your results. This is actually the first video in a 5-video course, so we're going to get into it. Make sure you whip out that poker journal so you can take notes.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Now let's get to work. Gambate!
There's 2 ways you can go on this job. My way or the highway. Now what's it gonna be, Mr. Pink?
It's beneath me, I'm Mr. Pink. Let's move on.
Let's go to work.
So this is the first video in the free bread and butter poker course. To get the entire course, just go to smartpokerstudy.com/bread-and-butter-course. As soon as you sign up, you'll get an email. Boom, all 5 videos. You can watch them all in one day if you want. So let me ask you a question. The first question is, would you prefer, in a random hand of poker, would you prefer to be the pre-flop raiser or the pre-flop caller? Most of you would prefer to be the pre-flop raiser. And the reason why is because you have the stronger range, right? You were the raiser, you got pocket aces, kings, and queens. Even if you don't have that hand, maybe you have a king-9 offsuit kind of hand, at least that perception from most of your calling opponents, you could have those very strong hands. Plus, as the pre-flop raiser, you have that opportunity to c-bet. Sometimes, on the button, you open raise with king-9 offsuit. Small blind player folds, big blind player calls. Boom! This is a bread and butter spot. The flop comes down queen, 8, deuce, rainbow. Pretty hard to hit board. You just have a king-9. You got almost nothing other than a king-high and some backdoor straight draws, right? He checks to you. You c-bet 2 into 4.5. Boom! You take it down. That is one of the great aspects of bread and butter poker. He's got to consider hard to hit board. This guy was the open raiser with the strong range. I got to just exit the hand. Now, let me ask you another question. Do you prefer, in a random hand, to be in position on the flop or out of position on the flop? Well, my guess, if you're anything like me, you much prefer being in position. And the reason for that is you have more information to act upon. You have a little bit more time as well to consider the pot size, the stack size, your opponent's position, their range, their player type, their HUD stats, their tendencies. You have more time and more information with which to make your decisions. So sometimes somebody limps into the pot, only 1 big blind, and then you come in 5 big blind ISO raise with your pocket aces on the button in the best position. The blinds fold and that pre-flop limper calls. Yeah, this is a bread and butter spot. Right now you're the pre-flop raiser and you are in position with a super strong hand, pocket aces. The pot on the flop is 11.5 big blind, and it's a relatively hard to hit 4-8-3, but there are a couple of spades out there, and you have the ace of spades blocker with your pocket aces, right? Now, your opponent times down a little bit before checking. During that time, you can assess what's going on. Okay, 11.5 big blind pot. Oh, he only has 15.7 big blinds behind. It's going to be pretty easy to get his entire stack. Plus, I know this player. I've played with quite a few hands with him. He's a super loose passive fish player, doesn't like to fold on flops or turns. As you can see, the smart HUD shows us this, right? So what am I going to do? This guy could probably call with any 2 overcards and any pocket pair, even pocket deuces might call on the 8-4-3. So I'm going to come in, 4 big blinds on 11.5. Let's try to build that pot a tiny bit, and then he ends up calling. So the pot on the turn now, we're still in position, pocket aces with the ace of spades. The turn comes a 6 of spades, putting on the board 3 spades, 8, 6, 4, 3. Hey, our opponent only has 11.7 big blinds. The pot is 19.5. He checks to us. We got to just put them all in right here, right? And he ends up calling. And then we get to the river and we end up seeing he had a 10 jack offsuit. One of the great things about playing against fish like this is they give you more bread and butter when you get into those bread and butter spots against them. So we just absolutely crushed him pre-flop, aces versus 10 jack, and then through every street as well. Now, one last question to ask you. In a random hand of poker, would you prefer to be against one or two players or the entire table? Do you like those multi-way spots? Most players, no, they don't like it multi-way. They like to be heads up or maybe against two opponents. And the reason why is because these situations are just easier to manage. When you only have one or two opponents, you only have one or two ranges to think about, one or two different player types, one or two stack sizes to think about, and one or two just random tendencies in their HUD stats as well. And plus, just in general, it gives you less landmines to dodge, and it just makes it easier to value bet or bluff c-bet your opponents. So sometimes you get in a situation like this. You have ace queen suited and under the gun player open raises to 3 big blinds. We want to put ourselves in bread and butter. We have to be the pre-flop raiser. We're in the best position on the button right here. And if we ISO raise, most likely he's going to be the only player to call us. We're going to be bread and butter. We make it 9 big blinds as a 3-bet. The blinds fold and then boom, the open raiser calls us, making that pot on the flop, 19.5 big blinds. We got the ace queen. The flop comes down ace 9-3. Pretty decent, right? Top pair, good kicker with the queen. He checks to us. We assess the situation. What should we do? Should we value bet or not? He folds 67% of the time on the flop. But hey, this is a 58-50 player, super loose and aggressive, plays way too many hands. He has every ace in his range. He has pair of 9s. He has pocket pairs of 10s, 8s, and 7s that might not fold on the ace 9-3. We got a value bet. We go half pot right here. Oh, he calls us. Lovely, we're getting value. The jack hits. It's a jack of spades, putting 2 spades on the board. Ace, jack, 9-3. There's no indication that we're behind right now. He doesn't necessarily have ace, jack, or ace 9 or ace 3 for 2 pair or something better like a set of 9s, right? So he checks to us on the turn. We got to come out for another bet. A little bit over half pot, 24 into 38, and he calls us. Awesome. This is great because now the pot on the river is 86 big blinds. He only has 58 big blinds behind. It's going to be easy to get them all in, right? The 7 comes, a 7 of diamonds, so it doesn't complete the flush, and a straight gets there, but on the jack 9-7, he needs an 8-10. Did you really call pre-flop, flop, and turn with an 8-10 in a 3-bet pot? Probably not, so we're not worried about a straight, right? The only thing is maybe he just now hit ace 7 or he slow played a set the entire way, right? But that's not really anything to be super worried about because we just have such a good kicker. We beat his random 9 that doesn't want to fold, a pocket pair of 10s that doesn't want to fold, ace deuce, ace 4, ace 5, ace 6, ace 8, ace 10 as well. So much stuff that we're beating right here. We put them all in. He calls and he shows down ace deuce offsuit. We crushed him. He had top pair with the weakest kicker. Our ace queen got this guy right here. Now, all these 3 hands demonstrate the power of being in position as the pre-flop raiser against 1 or maybe 2 opponents, the bread and butter spot. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Sky, it does make sense. I do like being the pre-flop raiser in position against 1 or 2 other opponents. And you're telling me bread and butter is good to go for. But where's the proof? Let me show you with my own numbers. So I looked at my database, recent sample of 10,420 hands. I like that 10,000, nice big chunk right there. I went through and ran a few filters. But first off, my total win rate over the 10,420 hands, this is all at 10 NL on Ignition Poker. My win rate was 21.45 big blinds per 100 hands. Pretty lovely. When I filtered for the bread and butter spot, and if you join this free course in the second video, I'm going to teach you how to filter for this in Poker Tracker 4. When I filter for that, my win rate in bread and butter is positive 355.07 big blinds per 100 hands. That means on average, every time I put myself into a bread and butter spot, I'm winning 3.5507 big blinds on average. But what about when I just VPIP? I enter the pot in any way. Well, when I VPIP, my win rate is positive 219.9 big blinds. So in bread and butter spots, I'm earning way more, right? Positive 355. Now, if we break this down, the V-pipping, into pre-flop raiser, well, my win rate as just the pre-flop raiser, whether I'm in position or out of position and any number of opponents, it's positive 237. Okay, that's pretty good. When I'm in position, it's positive 333. Lovely number. When I'm not in position as the pre-flop raiser, positive 191. So nothing is as good as that bread and butter spot. What about when I'm the pre-flop caller? Anti-bread and butter, right? Well, when I'm the pre-flop caller, positive 138 big blinds per 100 hands. When I'm in position as the caller, positive 91. When I'm out of position, positive 156 big blinds per 100 hands. So calling is definitely not as good as raising, and just raising in general, whether it's in position or not in position, that's not as good as that bread and butter spot. So please, let my numbers convince you to at least try to seek out as much bread and butter as possible. Now, I want to help you get more bread and butter in your play sessions. The first thing is an attitude that I want you to play with. The attitude is, I want all the bread and butter. None for them, all for me. Sometimes you have a hand like Jack 10 offsuit in the cutoff. It folds to you. You open raise. Jack 10 offsuit, not the best of hands, but we're going for bread and butter, baby. We're trying to get it. The button folds, the small blind folds, and the big blind caller, very tight player, decides to come along. That's awesome right there. We're in position as the pre-flop raiser against one other player. It is bread and butter. Look at that board. Queen, 6, deuce, rainbow. Hard to hit board. He folds a lot versus C-bets right here. So he checks. We're going to throw out the bluff. 2 into 6.5 using a smaller size right here. Make our work a little bit easier. And he calls. Drat, we wanted him to fold. But we could probably double barrel and get a tight player like this to fold, especially if that turn might not help him at all. Ooh, a king comes on the turn, making the board king, queen, 6, deuce, 2 hearts. We have the jack of hearts to block it. We have the jack 10 offsuit, remember. So this king, he might have called on the flop with a king. That's possible. But more likely than that, he called with some kind of a pair, maybe some kind of a backdoor draw, or maybe an ace high kind of hand. Plus, this king on the king-queen board gives our jack 10 an open-ender. He checks to us. We have to double barrel. Let's use that position, use that C-betting initiative, as well as our strong range against him. We bet 7 into 10.5. Boom, he finds the fold. So first off, you are going to play with that attitude of I want more bread and butter. Next off, raise in late position. You saw in all these hands, I was the open raiser, or I raised over a limper, or I was the 3-better. You need to be that pre-flop raiser to get bread and butter. Use a size that limits callers. In general, when you're open raising, you want to go 3 big blinds or more. When you just open raise to 2, you're not necessarily going to limit those callers, especially if you're doing it from under the gun or under the gun +1. When you are ISO raising player, somebody limps in and you come in for the raise, make it 5 big blinds or more. You don't want to just go 3 big blinds and then both the blinds call and a limper calls. At least you're in position as the pre-flop raiser, but now you got landmines to dodge because you're up against 3 opponents. And then when you're 3-betting, go 9 big blinds or more. Try to get just that one open raiser to call, or possibly just get him to exit the hand, right? Also, play the player. Take a look around your table and look for 3-betters that might be still to act who could 3-bet against you. Try to avoid them or use a larger size to dissuade them from 3-betting. And also, a really good idea when you're going for bread and butter, target those flop folders. In that Jack 10 offsuit hand, my opponent is a very tight player, but so far he's folded to C-bets 100% of the time. It's a small sample size, but still, all these players are folding 1 out of 1, 100%. Let's see if we can't C-bet bluff and make it 2 out of 2, then 3 out of 3, then 4 out of 4. Lastly, right here, to help you get more bread and butter, table select. Find fishy tables and avoid tables with loose aggressive players on your left. They're the ones who are more likely to call you or to raise you or to see the flop in the bet when you check on the turn. They give you problems when they're on your direct left. Keep the lags on your right, and the more fish, the merrier. Now, let me help you avoid those non-bread and butter spots. First off, play with an attitude while you're playing with the attitude of, I want all the bread and butter. Another attitude, I hate giving them bread and butter. Great attitude to have. Sometimes you're dealt a hand in the small blind, like queen, jack offsuit. The MP player open raises to 3, cutoff folds, button calls. You have queen, jack offsuit in the small blind. There's still the big blind left to act. If you call right now, let's look ahead to the future. If we call right now, is the big blind player going to call? Well, there's a very good chance. So my call with Queen Jack offsuit, I'm saying, hey, I want to see the flop out of position against 3 other players with the Queen Jack offsuit. Does that sound like a winning situation? Absolutely not. And it is totally anti-bread and butter. So in this kind of spot, fold. Exit the hand. Avoid giving them bread and butter. Another way to avoid non-bread and butter is ask yourself, will I be in bread and butter if I call right now, if I raise right now, if whatever I end up doing? If the answer is no, consider raising as a bluff or just folding and exiting the hand instead. Now, lastly, don't limp, call less often, and infrequently defend your blinds with calls, because all of those plays are anti-bread and butter because you can't be the pre-flop raiser once you're calling. Now it's time for you to take action. Step number 1 is to like the video. If you like the video, please leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel for more. Step 2 is play a session and seek out bread and butter. And use a bread and butter tick sheet, just a piece of paper. One column of the paper says bread and butter. The second column, non-bread and butter. Every time you see a flop and you're in bread and butter, put a tick mark. Or if you're not in bread and butter seeing the flop, put a tick mark under that. The goal, of course, is just to get as much bread and butter as possible. And then your third action step is to join the free course. Go to smartpokerstudy.com/bread and butter course right now. Now you're going to get 5 videos in this course. The first video was this one right here. You can rewatch it again, of course. Video number 2, you're going to learn how to track your bread and butter win rates to measure your success, like I went through in this episode already. Number 3, you're going to be the C-better now more than ever. So you need to learn how to make more profitable bluff and value C-bets, and I'm going to help you with that video. Video 4, learn how to get value from non-folders. And video number 5, learn how often your bluffs need to work for more effective post-flop steals. So once again, go to smartpokerstudy.com/bread and butter course right now to get the free course.